The Albino Dragon's Legacy. First part. Marcus Chen sat on the cold concrete steps of the Veterans Affairs office, staring at the crumpled rejection letter in his hands. Another job interview gone wrong. The nightmares from his 3 tours in Afghanistan still haunted him, making it impossible to sleep through the night. His savings had run out months ago, and his small apartment would be gone by the end of the week. The sounds of traffic filled the air as people walked past him, all busy with their own lives. Marcus felt invisible, forgotten like so many other veterans who had served their country only to come home to a world that didn't seem to need them anymore. His prosthetic leg ached in the cold weather, a constant reminder of the IED that had ended his military career. A shadow fell across his face. Marcus looked up to see a tall figure in an expensive black suit. The man had pale skin, silver hair, and the strangest purple eyes Marcus had ever seen. There was something otherworldly about him, though Marcus couldn't put his finger on what. "Marcus Chen?" the stranger asked in a voice that sounded perfectly human but somehow felt wrong, like an actor playing a role. "Yeah, that's me. You a bill collector or something?" Marcus asked, too tired to care about being polite. The man smiled, showing teeth that were just a little too sharp. "My name is Ambassador HFY. I represent the Draconian Empire. I have news regarding King Zarthul the Magnificent." Marcus blinked. "I think you got the wrong guy, buddy. I don't know any kings." "You served under Captain James Morrison in the 101st Airborne, correct?" HFY asked, pulling out a tablet that looked like nothing Marcus had ever seen before. The screen seemed to float above the device without any visible projection. "How do you know about Jimmy?" Marcus stood up slowly, his hand instinctively moving to where his sidearm used to be. "Captain Morrison died 2 years ago in a car accident. Captain Morrison saved King Zarthul's life during what your people call the Aurora incident," HFY explained, "though your government classified it as a weather phenomenon." Marcus remembered that night. They had been on patrol near the Pakistan border when strange lights filled the sky. Jimmy had wandered off toward the lights despite orders to stay put. When he came back hours later, he was different. Quieter. He claimed he couldn't remember what happened. But sometimes Marcus caught him staring at the sky with a look of longing. "The captain formed a bond with our king," HFY continued. "When Zarthul was dying, he left instructions in his will. You, Marcus Chen, are to inherit his most prized possession." "This is insane," Marcus said, but something in the ambassador's eyes made him listen. "King Zarthul's last companion was an albino dragon named Frost. She is young by dragon standards, only 300 years old. The king grew fond of your human ways through his friendship with Captain Morrison. He learned your language and customs. Before his death, he asked that Frost be given to someone who would understand loyalty and sacrifice." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Look at me, man. I can barely take care of myself. I'm about to be homeless." "What am I going to do with a dragon?" "Frost is not just any dragon," HFY said seriously. "She is bonded to draconian technology that your people don't understand yet. She could solve many of your world's problems, but only if she trusts her new companion completely." "Why me specifically?" "Captain Morrison spoke of you often to the king. He said you were the most loyal soldier he ever knew, that you saved his squad multiple times, even after losing your leg. Zarthul believed that kind of loyalty deserved to be honored." Before Marcus could respond, a low rumble filled the air. People on the street stopped and looked up as a massive shadow passed overhead. A sleek ship that looked like a cross between a fighter jet and a work of art descended from the clouds. It landed silently in the empty lot across the street, completely ignoring the laws of physics as Marcus understood them. "She's here," HFY said with what might have been relief. The ship's hull became transparent, revealing the interior. Marcus saw advanced technology beyond anything he had imagined, but his attention was drawn to the large form curled up in the center of the ship. The dragon was pure white, her scales seeming to glow with their own inner light. She was smaller than Marcus had expected from movies and books, about the size of a small aircraft, but there was an intelligence in her golden eyes that was unmistakably real. "Frost refuses to bond with anyone from our species," HFY explained as they walked toward the ship. "She has been grieving since Zarthel's death 6 months ago. She won't eat, won't speak to our handlers, and won't activate any of her technological interfaces. Without a bond, she will die. What happens if I say no? Then we return her to our world, where she will likely waste away in a royal tomb. Zarthel's other heirs want nothing to do with a dragon who prefers human customs." As they approached the ship, Marcus felt a strange pulling sensation in his chest. Frost lifted her massive head and looked directly at him. For a moment, their eyes met, and Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since Jimmy's death, a connection to another living being. The dragon rose gracefully and moved to the edge of the ship. When she spoke, her voice was warm and distinctly feminine, with a slight accent that reminded Marcus of his grandmother from Mississippi. "Well, hey there, sugar," Frost said, tilting her head to one side. "You must be Marcus. Zarthel told me all about you before he passed, said you were good people." Marcus nearly fell over. "You sound human?" "Yeah, the old king thought it was hilarious when I started picking up Earth slang from your captain. I spent a lot of time watching your TV shows and movies through the ship's communications array. I got real fond of Southern hospitality shows and old westerns." "This is too weird," Marcus muttered. "I know it's a lot to take in, hon," Frost said gently. "But I'm in a real pickle here. Without a proper bond, my body's shutting down. Zarthel thought you might be willing to help a girl out." Despite everything, Marcus found himself smiling. "You really talk like that naturally?" "Well, I've been practicing for months. Zarthel said humans respond better to familiar speech patterns." "Was I wrong?" "No, it's just unexpected." HFY cleared his throat. "I should explain the practical matters. If you accept guardianship of Frost, you will be provided with housing, a monthly stipend, and access to certain draconian technologies to help with her care. The location is remote but comfortable." "What's the catch?" Marcus asked. "There is no catch. The king's will is very specific. You care for Frost and she will care for you. It's a partnership, not ownership." Frost lowered her head until she was eye level with Marcus. Up close, he could see that her scales had an almost crystalline quality, and there were intricate patterns etched into them that seemed to shift in the light. "I won't lie to you, Marcus," she said softly. "I'm grieving something fierce. The king was like a father to me. I don't know if I'm ready to trust again, but something about you feels familiar, safe." Marcus thought about his empty apartment, his empty bank account, and his empty future. Then he thought about Jimmy Morrison, who had always said that sometimes the best things in life came when you least expected them. "What exactly does bonding mean?" he asked. "It's like having a really close friend," Frost explained. "We share emotions sometimes, especially strong ones. I can sense when you're in danger or really upset. You might feel the same from me. It's not mind reading or anything invasive like that. More like knowing when someone needs you." "And the technology stuff?" "I can interface with draconian systems. The ship, communication devices, weapons if needed, but only when I'm healthy and bonded. Right now, I can barely keep the ship's life support running." Marcus looked at his prosthetic leg, then back at Frost. "You okay with damaged goods?" Frost snorted, sending small puffs of glittering mist from her nostrils. "Honey, I'm an albino dragon who quotes John Wayne movies. We're all a little damaged. Question is, Are we going to heal together or separately? For the first time in years, Marcus felt something like hope. All right, let's try this. But I got questions. Lots of questions. I got answers, Frost said, her eyes brightening. Well, some answers. We'll figure out the rest as we go. HFY activated a device on his wrist. The property is ready. I'll transfer you both there now. Marcus, your belongings will be retrieved and transported separately. Wait, what belongings? Marcus asked. Your service medals, photographs, Captain Morrison's letters to you, everything of personal value. Marcus stared. He had never told anyone about those letters. Jimmy had written to him every week during his recovery in the hospital, helping him through the darkest period of his life. How did you know about the letters? Zarthul knew many things about you through Captain Morrison, HFY said. The king believed in honoring those who honor others. The world around them shimmered, and suddenly Marcus found himself standing in front of a beautiful log cabin surrounded by forest. Mountains rose in the distance, and a clear lake stretched out behind the house. The air was clean and crisp, carrying the scent of pine trees and fresh water. Welcome home, partner, Frost said, settling down beside him with a contented sigh. What do you think? Marcus looked around at the peaceful landscape, then at the dragon beside him. For the first time since leaving the army, he felt like he might actually belong somewhere. I think, he said slowly, this is either the best thing that's ever happened to me, or I'm having the most elaborate hallucination in medical history. Frost chuckled, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Either way, sugar, we're in it together now. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting golden light across the lake, Marcus realized that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships were exactly what both sides needed. He still had questions about dragons, alien technology, and what his life was going to look like from now on. But for the first time in years, he was looking forward to finding out. The ship settled into a landing configuration beside the cabin, its hull shifting to match the surrounding landscape until it was nearly invisible. Advanced technology that could change the world, guarded by an unlikely partnership between a struggling veteran and a grieving dragon who spoke like a southern belle. Marcus couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring. The Albino Dragon's Legacy. Second part. 3 weeks into their partnership, Marcus discovered that living with a dragon was nothing like the fairy tales suggested. For one thing, Frost was incredibly messy. She shed scales constantly, leaving glittering white fragments all over the cabin floor. She also had strong opinions about human food, particularly his attempts at cooking. Marcus, honey, what in tarnation is that smell? Frost called from outside where she was sunbathing by the lake. Her voice carried easily through the open windows. Breakfast? Marcus replied, flipping what he hoped would turn out to be pancakes. The prosthetic leg made standing for long periods difficult, but he was getting better at bracing himself against the counter. It smells like burnt rubber and regret, Frost observed, poking her massive head through the cabin's oversized doorway. The previous owners had apparently anticipated unusual guests. It's not that bad, Marcus protested, though privately he had to admit the pancakes looked more like charcoal discs. Bless your heart, Frost said in that particular southern way that wasn't really a compliment. Step aside, sugar. Let me show you something. Marcus watched in amazement as Frost delicately breathed on the skillet. Instead of fire, a stream of precisely controlled warm air emerged from her nostrils, somehow fixing the burnt pancakes and filling the kitchen with the smell of perfect breakfast food. How did you do that? He asked. Dragons don't just breathe fire, darling. We control temperature and atmospheric composition. Zarthul taught me that humans appreciate properly cooked food, so I learned to regulate heat output. Took me about 50 years to get it right. 50 years just to learn cooking. Well, I also learned 17 human languages, quantum mechanics, and how to pilot a starship during that time. Multitasking, you know. Marcus was constantly surprised by how intelligent Frost was. She absorbed information like a sponge, often understanding complex concepts faster than he could explain them. Yet she maintained her folksy manner of speaking, which made their conversations feel natural despite the surreal circumstances. The cabin came fully equipped with draconian technology that Marcus was slowly learning to use. The walls could become transparent to show outside views. The furniture could reshape itself on command, and the communication system could apparently contact anywhere in the galaxy. Frost helped him understand the basics, though she admitted that much of the advanced technology was beyond her as well. The old king was the tech genius, she explained one evening as they sat by the lake watching the stars. I was more like his emotional support dragon. He got real lonely after his wife died, and I was good company. Learned to be more human-like to make him feel better. Do you miss being more dragon-like? Marcus asked. Frost considered this carefully. I don't rightly know anymore. Been so long since I acted like a regular dragon, I'm not sure I remember how, but I like who I am now. Feels more authentic somehow. Their bond had been growing stronger each day. Marcus could sense Frost's emotions as a gentle presence in the back of his mind. Her contentment when they sat together, her concern when his leg bothered him, her joy when they discovered something new about the technology. In return, she seemed to know when he was having nightmares or struggling with memories from the war. The first time she helped him through a panic attack, Marcus realized their partnership was becoming something deeper than either of them had expected. It happened on a Thursday morning when a low-flying aircraft triggered his PTSD. The sound of engines sent him back to Afghanistan, to the moment when everything went wrong. He found himself on the floor of the cabin, shaking uncontrollably, unable to distinguish between memory and reality. Frost appeared beside him instantly, her massive form somehow comforting rather than overwhelming. She didn't try to talk him out of it or offer empty reassurances. Instead, she simply laid her head near his and shared her own sense of calm through their bond. Easy there, partner, she said softly. You're safe. We're at the lake. Nothing's gonna hurt you here. The panic gradually faded, replaced by Frost's steady presence. Marcus found his breathing returning to normal as her emotions helped ground him in the present moment. Thank you, he said when he could speak again. That's what partners do, Frost replied. We look out for each other. It was after that incident that Marcus began to understand what the dragon bond really meant. They were becoming a team in ways he had only experienced once before with his military unit. But this was different, deeper, and more personal. Their peaceful routine was interrupted on a Friday morning when the communication system activated on its own. A holographic display appeared in the living room, showing Ambassador Vexahai looking distinctly uncomfortable. Greetings, Marcus. I apologize for the intrusion, but we have a situation. Frost moved to stand beside Marcus, her demeanor immediately shifting to something more alert and protective. What kind of situation? Vex. The hegemony has learned about Frost's location. They are en route to Earth with the intention of claiming her and the ship's technology. Marcus felt Frost's alarm spike through their bond. Who's the hegemony? A coalition of species that believes humans are too primitive to possess advanced technology, Vexhai explained. They view Zarthol's will as a mistake that needs to be corrected. What exactly does that mean for us? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew. They will attempt to remove Frost from your custody and destroy any draconian technology on Earth. They consider human contact with our civilization to be a contamination risk, Frost growled, a sound that made the cabin windows vibrate. Like hell they will. I chose my partner, and no hegemony decree is going to change that. I'm afraid they have legal authority under galactic law, HFY said reluctantly. Zarthul's will is being contested by his heirs, who claim he was not of sound mind when he wrote it. How long do we have? Marcus asked. Perhaps 6 of your hours. Their fleet is approaching your solar system now. Marcus felt his military training kicking in. What are our options? You could surrender Frost voluntarily. She would be returned to the draconian homeworld and placed in protective custody. You would be given compensation, and your memory of these events would be erased. Absolutely not, both Marcus and Frost said simultaneously. I figured you'd say that, HFY said with something that might have been approval. The alternative is more complicated. We're listening, Frost said. If you can prove that the bond between you is genuine and beneficial to both species, the hegemony's legal challenge might be overturned, but it would require demonstrating the technology's value under human stewardship. Marcus looked at Frost. What kind of demonstration? The ship's systems include terraforming technology, medical scanners that could revolutionize your healthcare, and energy systems that could solve your planet's resource problems. If you could activate even one of these systems and show positive results, it would support the claim that humans can responsibly handle draconian technology. Can we do that? Marcus asked Frost. Maybe, she said thoughtfully. I've been trying to access the ship's deeper systems for weeks, but they require a true partnership bond to activate, the kind that comes from complete trust and shared purpose. How do we know if we have that? Only one way to find out, sugar. They walked outside to where the ship sat camouflaged beside the lake. As they approached, Marcus felt something different through their bond, a sense of anticipation that seemed to come from both Frost and something else. Put your hand here, Frost instructed, indicating a smooth section of the ship's hull. Marcus placed his palm against the surface and immediately felt a tingling sensation. The ship's hull became transparent, revealing the incredible technology within. But this time, the displays were active and responsive. Well, I'll be, Frost said with wonder. It's working. Marcus, the ship recognizes you as my bonded partner. Information flooded Marcus's mind through the ship's interface. He could see readouts of Earth's atmospheric composition, population centers, and resource distribution. More importantly, he could see problems. Areas where the planet's ecosystem was failing, diseases that the ship's medical systems could help cure, energy shortages that could be solved with draconian technology. This is incredible, he breathed. We could actually help people with this. That's the idea, darling. Zarthul believed humans had potential. He thought given the right tools and guidance, your species could become a force for good in the galaxy. What about the hegemony? Well, Frost said with a grin that showed too many sharp teeth, I reckon we're about to find out just how good human military strategy is when combined with dragon stubbornness and alien technology. Marcus felt his soldiers' instincts taking over. We'll need a plan, and backup plans, and probably backup plans for our backup plans. Now you're talking my language, Frost said approvingly. Let's show these hegemony folks what happens when they mess with Earth. As they worked together to understand the ship's systems, Marcus realized that their bond had indeed deepened into something extraordinary. He could feel Frost's determination matching his own, her intelligence complementing his tactical thinking. They weren't just partners anymore. They were a true team. The first hegemony ships appeared as dark spots against the afternoon sky, moving faster than anything humans had ever built. But Marcus and Frost were ready for them. You ready for this, partner? Frost asked. Marcus checked the ship's defensive systems one more time, marveling at how naturally the controls responded to his thoughts when filtered through their bond. Let's show them what humans are really capable of. The battle for Earth's right to advanced technology was about to begin, and Marcus had never felt more prepared for a fight in his life. The albino dragon's legacy. Third part. The hegemony fleet arrived like a storm of metal and malice. 12 massive ships descended from the clouds, their hulls dark and angular, designed to intimidate rather than inspire. They positioned themselves in a perfect formation around the lake, clearly expecting immediate surrender. Marcus watched them through the ship's sensors, while Frost paced restlessly outside the cabin. Her scales had shifted from pure white to a slightly iridescent pattern that seemed to indicate agitation or preparation for battle. "Incoming transmission," the ship's AI announced in a voice that sounded distinctly unimpressed. A hologram materialized, showing a tall, imposing figure with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished obsidian. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I am Supreme Commander Veltar of the Galactic Hegemony. By order of the Interspecies Council, you will surrender the Dragon Frost and all draconian technology immediately. Compliance is not optional." Marcus felt Frost's anger spike through their bond as she moved to stand beside him. "Well, aren't you just a ray of sunshine?" she said sweetly. "I don't suppose you'd be interested in discussing this like civilized folks?" "The creature will return with us to face judgment for contaminating a primitive species with advanced technology," Veltar continued, apparently not interested in discussion. "The human will submit to memory erasure and psychological adjustment." "Over my dead body," Marcus said flatly. "That can be arranged," Veltar replied without emotion. "You have 60 seconds to comply." The transmission ended, leaving them in tense silence. "Well, that went about as expected," Frost observed. "Ready to show them what human ingenuity looks like when it's properly motivated?" Marcus was already activating the ship's systems. The past few weeks of learning to interface with draconian technology were about to be put to the ultimate test. Through their bond, he could feel Frost's confidence in him, which helped steady his nerves. "Phase 1, he said, his military training taking over. "We demonstrate that humans can use this technology responsibly." The ship's medical scanners activated, sweeping across the planet in seconds. The data that came back was both encouraging and heartbreaking. The scanners had identified thousands of medical conditions that could be easily treated with draconian technology, from cancer to genetic disorders to simple injuries that Earth medicine couldn't properly address. "Broadcasting medical scan results to all hegemony ships," Marcus announced over the communication channel. "Your own sensors should confirm the data." On the holographic display, he could see the hegemony ships responding to the information. Their scanners were undoubtedly verifying what Marcus had just shown them, that the ship's technology was being used to identify ways to help people, not harm them. "Phase 2, Frost said, understanding their plan perfectly. She interfaced with the ship's terraforming systems, targeting a stretch of desert visible from orbit. Within minutes, the advanced technology began transforming the barren landscape. Water condensation systems activated, soil composition was adjusted at the molecular level, and hardy plant life began to grow at an accelerated rate. "Impossible," came Veltar's voice over the communication channel. "Humans cannot operate terraforming technology." "Well, butter my biscuit," Frost replied cheerfully. "Looks like you might be wrong about that, Commander." Marcus could see the hegemony ships adjusting their positions, clearly confused by what they were witnessing. Their entire worldview was based on the assumption that humans were too primitive to handle advanced technology safely. "Phase 3, Marcus said grimly. This was the risky part. He activated the ship's defensive systems, not to attack, but to demonstrate something unprecedented in galactic history. A human and dragon working in perfect synchronization with technology that required absolute trust to operate. Energy shields flared to life around their position, but instead of the typical static barriers most species used, these shields were dynamic and adaptive. Marcus provided the strategic thinking, while Frost contributed her understanding of energy manipulation. Together, they created a defensive system that was both more efficient and more sophisticated than anything the hegemony had on record. "How are they doing that?" came a voice from one of the other hegemony ships. "Scan the energy patterns," Veltar ordered. "Find the weakness." But there was no weakness to find. The shield system was constantly evolving, adjusting to potential threats before they could manifest. It was like watching a dance between technology and instinct, with Marcus and Frost as the choreographers. "Commander Veltar," came a new voice, Ambassador Vex High appearing on the communication channel. "I'm reading some interesting data from your position. Ambassador, your king's will is in clear violation of galactic protocols. This contamination must be contained. Actually, I think you should look at the readings more carefully. The bond between Frost and Marcus isn't just functional. It's producing results that exceed draconian technological capabilities." Marcus felt a surge of surprise from Frost. She hadn't known that either. "Explain," Veltar demanded. "The terraforming process they just demonstrated would typically take 3 days using our standard technology. They completed it in 17 minutes. The medical scans showed diagnostic accuracy improvements of 37% over baseline draconian systems. And those shield harmonics? Our best engineers couldn't replicate them if they tried." Silence fell over the communication channels as the implications sank in. Marcus looked at Frost, who seemed as stunned as he felt. "We're making the technology better?" "Apparently so, Sugar," she said softly. "Human creativity and dragon intuition. Who'd have thought?" "This changes nothing," Veltar finally said. "Protocols exist for a reason." "Actually, it changes everything," came another voice. Marcus's displays showed a new ship arriving, sleek and elegant, where the hegemony vessels were angular and threatening. The newcomer was draconian, bearing the royal insignia. A hologram appeared, showing an elderly dragon with scales that shifted between silver and gold. "I am Elder Zixara of the Draconian Council. Commander Veltar, you will stand down immediately." "Elder, with respect, the hegemony has jurisdiction in this matter." "Not anymore. What we're witnessing here proves that King Zarthul's will was not the product of a failing mind, but the insight of a visionary. This partnership represents the next step in galactic evolution." Marcus felt Frost's emotions shift from determination to something approaching awe. Through their bond, he sensed that Elder Zixara was incredibly ancient and important, even by dragon standards. "Marcus Chen," the Elder continued, "King Zarthul left additional instructions to be revealed only if his faith in humanity proved justified. Would you be willing to hear them?" "I'm listening," Marcus said, though he couldn't imagine what else could possibly be revealed. "The technology you've been working with represents less than 1% of what the ship contains. Zarthul believed that if humans could prove themselves worthy partners to dragons, both species could achieve things neither could accomplish alone. New systems activated throughout the ship, displays lighting up with information that made Marcus's head spin, medical technology that could extend human lifespans by centuries, environmental systems that could restore entire damaged ecosystems in weeks, transportation technology that would make interstellar travel as simple as driving to the next town." "Holy cow," Frost whispered. "He really did believe in y'all, didn't he?" "King Zarthul studied human history extensively," Elder Zixara explained. "He was fascinated by your species' ability to adapt, overcome, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. He believed that given the right tools, humans could become the galaxy's greatest peacekeepers." Marcus thought about his time in the military, about the friends he'd lost trying to help people in impossible situations. The idea that their sacrifices might lead to something like this was almost overwhelming. "What's the catch?" he asked, because there always was one. "The technology must be shared responsibly. No one nation or group can control it. It must be used to help all of humanity, and eventually to help other species who need assistance. And if we refuse? Then the ship's systems will lock down permanently, and Frost will be free to choose her own path. But Zarthol believed you would make the right choice. Marcus looked at Frost, then at the displays showing suffering around the world that they could now help alleviate. He thought about veterans like himself who couldn't get proper medical care, about communities devastated by natural disasters, about all the problems that advanced technology could solve if used wisely. "What do you think, partner?" he asked Frost. "I think," she said slowly, "that the old king knew exactly what he was doing when he picked you. You've never been able to walk away from someone who needs help." Marcus nodded. "All right, Elder. We'll do it. But we do this our way, as equal partners." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Elder Zixara said with what Marcus could swear was a smile. "Commander Veltar, your ships are no longer needed here." "This is unprecedented," Veltar protested. "Yes, it is. And perhaps it's time for some precedents to be changed." One by one, the hegemony ships departed, leaving only the draconian vessel and their little lake surrounded by pine trees. "So," Marcus said as the excitement finally died down, "what happens now?" "Now," Frost said, settling down beside him with a contented sigh, "we get to work. There's a whole world out there that could use some help, and we've got the tools to provide it." Marcus looked out over the lake, then up at the stars that no longer seemed impossibly distant. Somewhere out there were other worlds, other people who might need help, and here on Earth were millions of problems that could finally be solved. "You know what?" he said finally. "I think I'm going to like this job." Frost chuckled, the sound carrying across the water like wind chimes. "Welcome to the real adventure, partner. I got a feeling this is just the beginning." As the sun set behind the mountains, Marcus realized that his life had gone from having no purpose to having the greatest purpose he could imagine. He was no longer a forgotten veteran struggling to find his place in the world. He was part of something bigger, something that could change everything. And it had all started with an albino dragon who spoke like a southern belle and believed that humans were worth saving. Sometimes the most unlikely partnerships really were exactly what the universe needed.